Hello everyone and welcome back guys to round 8 of season 3 of our F1 2020 My Team career mode, where today we're here back for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Obviously if you missed out on the last one from Monaco, I would definitely recommend going back and checking it out. But heading into this weekend though, no big news. I don't think we've had any more upgrades on the car. You can see we have still got one in progress on the chassis and the durability side of things. But yeah, only now 4 upgrades away from a completely maxed out car here on F1 2020. You can see overall in the World Championship order, Red Bull now ahead of Ferrari. Renault now technically best of the rest, I suppose, if you want to call it that. But having a look at the World Championship standings though, you can see myself now currently 20 points clear of George Russell, who is 79 ahead of Daniel Ricciardo there. And in the Constructors, we're near enough 200 points clear after just 7 races as well, ahead of Mercedes, Red Bull and Ferrari there. A good battle going on actually for P5 in the Constructors between Racing Point, McLaren and Renault. But heading into this weekend though, as always, I mean, every track suits our car at the moment. We've got an incredibly good car underneath us. So, let's see how we get on. Coming into this Azerbaijan Grand Prix weekend though, obviously it is crucial at the moment that we continue to try and at least apply the pressure to George Russell. 3 wins in a row for ourselves, and really the only one of those that was sort of on an even playing field was, of course, the Dutch Grand Prix, so don't feel too confident just yet, despite the 20-point margin over our teammate. I'm sure he's going to come back swinging at us in the next few rounds. Track acclimatization lap, just scraping the gold once, or the purple once again. Coming towards the end then of our qualifying simulation run. You know, free practice programs aren't normally too big an issue for us nowadays in this series, especially with how good the top end speed is. It's always quite nice actually around Baku on the Delta based programs. Obviously you can be a couple of tenths down, and as you can see heading out of the final corner about 2 tenths up on this qualifying simulation run. But at the final turn you can see it's just the Delta's going to keep going up and up and up as we head towards the start finish line, so you know you can basically gain what, about a free half a second around this circuit. Just look at that. We're going to be up by, yeah, near enough 8 tenths of a second in the end. It is over 8 tenths. A 36.9. Yeah, we're probably going to be rather quick this weekend, as I say every week, but still it always surprises me. Named Sainz and blocking me in free practice, a more iconic duo. I'll wait. Every single week, it feels like this season, Carlos Sainz ends up in the way of us. Remember, in the middle of one of our practice programs. Hopefully, he won't be able to do much heading out the back straight. In fact, he might actually be able to be a bit useful here with a bit of luck as we head down in towards the final proper corner of the lap. You can see Carlos struggling a bit to try and get the power down out of the final turn, but out through the final sort of chicane. Not really that difficult, obviously, in the new class of cars. It was a little bit on the edge back on F1 2016, but since the new era, yeah, really not been too difficult whatsoever. We're still going to make up a load of time. It's still going to be the purple score. Let's dive into qualifying. 4 R&D points then on the board, 2,501. That should be another upgrade. Let's see what we can do. So back in the base then, you can see what upgrades can we get. We can either get the Master Cylinder upgrade for 2,025 points, or the rear wing end plates, or the undernose turning vanes. That one seems to give us the most performance. Not that we're really worried about performance at this point here. It should be ready just after the French Grand Prix. 2 more performance impacting upgrades left to go on F1 2020. But let's dive into qualifying here for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Jumping straight into Q2 then here for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix qualifying session. We're going to see, as always, if we can make it through into Q3 on a set of the mediums. It isn't the most critical track to try and get the alternate strat at, but it is, however, useful and a little bit quicker than trying to drag the softs hards throughout the Grand Prix. I completely forgot as well, before this qualifying session, actually to change the ICE over. So we are running quite a worn-out ICE here on qualifying. You can see most of actually the engine parts are pretty worn out now. Obviously we've got a fresh gearbox in for last weekend's Monaco Grand Prix, but yeah, just struggling a bit with performance wear at the moment. Ideally, I don't want to be taking too many penalties this season. As you can probably understand, we're in quite a big battle with our teammate George Russell, but we might need to get a couple of parts swapped over. Let's see what we can do on this lap, however. Still getting wheel spin in 5th gear as we head in towards the final couple of corners. Esteban Ocon currently fastest on a 36.9. 35s are definitely possible for ourselves and George Russell. As you can see, there we go, 35.7 coming in from our teammate. What are we going to be able to do on the mediums? Hopefully a low mid 36 would be hopefully get through into Q3. It's going to be a 36.3. That's about roughly where I thought we'd be. So that should get us through into Q3 on a set of mediums. There we go then, Q2 done and dusted, and it is the usual 10 that make it through into Q3. Both of us, both Mercs, both Ferraris, both Red Bulls, Ocon and Carlos Sainz there. So normality is resumed after a little bit of chopping and changing at last time out Monaco Grand Prix. Jordan King, though, getting into Q2. A good job done for Alfa Romeo. So that means Raikkonen's out in 2 Q2s in a row. But this time round, yeah, Ocon up in 6th place there for Renault as well. Let's see if we can get pole position here for round 9 of the season. Sorry, round 8 of the season from Azerbaijan. This track is really one of those tracks during qualifying that requires you just to be very, very brave on the brakes, try and get the car slowed down on an absolute dime here. But getting ready then to start our first Q3 run from this Baku City circuit, 220 miles an hour as we head down in towards the first corner there. Brake just after the 150 metre board there. Actually, surprised I got that snuck in considering we'd snagged the front inside wheel there. Down in towards turn 2, another 90-degree right-hander. Try and roll on the power, avoid the wheel spin on the exit as you head down this next little straightaway here. Still topping out at well over 210 mph. Brake just before the 100-metre board down through turn 3. Our third 90-degree right in a row. This time round, sorry, no, all of those have been 90-degree lefts. I can't believe I've said that. That's a 90-degree right in through turn 5. Purple so far in sector 1. Still only 90-degree corners, as I'm sure those of you that have seen the Azerbaijan Grand Prix are well aware. The first sector, very, very square. The second and third, not quite the same. Braking just after the black box here. Want to be careful as you head through the infamous castle section. Make sure we get a nice bit of curb there. Allows the front end to bite and rotate through. And I'm just looking, I think that's Daniel Ricciardo just in front of us. Hopefully we can get a little bit of a distant tow from him as we head down in towards the final couple of corners. No, it is Alex Albon there, as you can see, but so far this has been a nice, clean, tidy lap in towards the final proper corner. Riding that curb on the exit, make sure we get the power down. Daniel Ricciardo with 37.1, the quickest time so far, but this lap has felt really, really good. I'll be honest, we should just get a little bit of pickup from Albon just in front. Bottas goes fastest down, I think that was a 36.7, but we just watch the clock tick as we head to the line. It's going to be a 35.4. Very, very happy with that one. If that isn't setting a gauntlet for George Russell, I don't know what is. Here we go then, ready for our final run. Let's see if we can just find a little bit more time over that previous lap. The game reckons there's about another 3/10 on the cards. I'm personally not so sure that is going to be possible here in qualifying. But yeah, that first lap really was hooked up quite nicely. It's given us a very, very strong banker that we've now got to try and beat on our second run. Back down in towards turn 1. Getting a bit of a tidier run, but not finding any time through it as we head down in towards turn 2. Really just trying to get the car rotated through and still trying to avoid the wheel spin on the exit. I'm feeling it around this track. The car feels quick, so hopefully we can perform. Down in towards turn 3, snagging the wheels there actually as we run a bit over the curbing on the way in. A bit ragged as we clip the curbs through turn 4 as well. Not really what you want to do through there, I'll be honest. Down in towards turn 5. We are purple though, I've noticed. Through turn 6. Get the power down on the exit. We're a quarter of a second up at the moment, so we have nailed that first sector of the lap. Get it all the way down into first gear as you head in towards the next couple of corners. We can be brave now through the castle. We know we're on a good lap at this stage of the session. Taking a lot of curb on the exit there. We don't get any wheel spin though on the exit of the corner, and so far this lap is feeling very, very hooked up. Down in towards sector 3, brake just at the end of the curbing there. Oh, a lot of wheel spin on the exit. That's going to cost us a bit of time as we head down in towards the final proper corner. Try and get it slowed down. Use the curbing on the exit. Give yourself the best run up towards the start-finish line here, and let's just see what the Delta is saying. Are we getting any tow? Did we get a tow last time round from Alex Albon? I think we did ever so slightly. You can just see the Delta, though, hovering at about the same. Could this be a 1:34 at the end of qualifying? Yes, it is, a 1:34.9. I was not expecting that. That felt good.
We're all ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who will be fronting the grid. Mr. Monaco, Russell, and Valtteri Bottas. Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix.
If that doesn't set down a gauntlet for George Russell, I don't know what will. They're 9/10 clear of our teammate at the end of Q3 there. 1.8, quicker than both Valtteri Bottas and Alex Albon there, as they actually set identical times at the end of qualifying. Ferraris lock out the third row. Hamilton down in P7. Not the qualifying he would have wanted there. Sainz edged out Daniel Ricciardo by just 0.02 of a second as well. And Ocon, weirdly enough, didn't set a time at the end of qualifying. But yeah, that is arguably one of the best qualifying laps I think I've done on F1 2020 so far. There definitely wasn't much left on the table on that lap. But we've got to remember we've got to get a couple of parts swapped out, ready for the race. It shouldn't involve a grid penalty. But let's dive in then. Round 8 of the season here for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix.
A warm welcome to all of you watching at home to today's Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and a race that in its short history has already proven no stranger to drama. A fourth row start is just about as likely to give you a podium as a pole position would. And remember, in 2017 and 2018, both Lance Stroll and then Sergio Perez took surprise podiums here. With 20 turns and a length of 3.7 miles, Baku City Circuit in the heart of the Azerbaijan capital is a real test of a driver's endurance, patience and precision. 90-degree corners through Sector 1 lead into a tightening uphill sprint as we start to circle around the old city. Then a 1.4-mile chase flat out through Sector 3 towards the finish line. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Mr. Monaco lines up on pole position, just ahead of George Russell, who starts this event from P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Albon, Charles Leclerc and Hamilton, Sainz, Ricciardo, Perez and Pierre Gasly, Norris, Stroll, Jordan King and Verstappen. They've taken a grid penalty. Kvyat, Raikkonen, Nobuharu Matsushita and Kevin Magnussen, De Vries, Ocon, Giovinazzi and Nicholas Latifi. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
Now that we've got some points on the board, let's continue this form and aim for another top 10 finish.
So here we are then in Azerbaijan, ready for round 8 of the season from the Baku Grand Prix. I may have been a bit of an idiot and forgot that you can't change parts, obviously, after we go into qualifying, because part Thermae is still a rule, and I don't know why I suddenly believed it wasn't on F1 2020. So yeah, we are going to have to take a bit of a risk, actually, with these worn-out parts. A couple of drivers, though, have taken grid penalties. Verstappen and Ocon, obviously the two big ones there, that are starting out of position as well. But the one-stop strategy should be very, very possible here today. The threat of a safety car is obviously very, very high as well around this circuit. But starting on the mediums last time didn't go too well for us at the start of the Grand Prix. We got mugged by Daniel Ricciardo. George Russell, is he going to be able to do the same here today? We will wait and find out, but we've got 26 laps ahead of us. The car felt phenomenal yesterday during qualifying. Let's hope it feels the same today. Let's hope it holds up as well on the reliability. It's 5 red lights and it's lights out. And away we go, off to a decent actual getaway that time round. I thought we were screwed as we head down in towards turn 1. Everyone, though, trying to sneak up the inside. And George Russell has actually pulled off the move in the end, as I think we had, oh, look at that, Albon trying to get a bit aggressive just behind us there out of the first turn. But down in towards turn 3, though, both myself and George Russell have got out in one piece. That's obviously the most important thing at the moment. 14 race victories in a row over the course of the end of last season and the start of this season. Can we continue it on here today? Only time will tell. It really is just a case of waiting for either a really badly timed safety car that screws us, or more likely we do a Mercedes from 2016 and get involved in a crash with each other. But yeah, George already trying to bolt away at the start of this race. Like I said, we can't afford to sort of let him start winning again in the nicest way possible. 3 wins in a row for ourselves. Hopefully we can make it 4 here today. But yeah, look at that, George Russell already 1.6 seconds up the road as we head down through Sector 2 here. So he's gone for the Sebastian Vettel style start that we have seen from George a couple of times already this season. Sometimes it works out well for him, sometimes it doesn't. But we're just trying to get our mediums up to temperature as well. Let's see if we can break away from Bottas. I'm definitely going to be intrigued to see what the strategy is by most of the AI. Obviously everyone else inside the top 10 starting on their soft compounded tyres. The game was saying the 2-stop was a strategy, but it was also recommending you pick for softs for about 4 laps over the entirety of the event. So yeah, only time will tell, but we have broken away a little bit from Bottas, but George is also doing the same to us.
Okay, we're monitoring somewhere on the ICE. Be aware that we will start to see a loss of power.
That definitely wasn't the message we needed in this Azerbaijan Grand Prix. The team already worried about the ICE wear and that we should expect to have a loss of power at some point in this race. It's not like Baku has any straights or anything that we need to worry about around this circuit. But yeah, we have never actually had a mechanical failure in this series over the course of a race. We've only ever had 1 retirement, and that was obviously last year's Dutch Grand Prix where we binned it and then Ricciardo couldn't avoid us. So hopefully that doesn't change us today. But yeah, George Russell, though, the gap pretty much staying even between the pair of us at the moment. We're just trading fastest laps early on as we improve our PB by half a tenth. The gap, yeah, hovering in between about 1.5 and 2 seconds.
We're accumulating some wear on the MGUK. To manage this, we'll need to lower our ERS deployment mode.
Why are we getting all these messages now, Jeff? Why is it all happening at once here? It looks like already it might have to be one of those days where we sort of just manage the wear, unless we just risk it and completely destroy the engine and hope that it lasts to the end of the Grand Prix. Already giving ourselves a bit of a tough day out, but we're still going to keep pushing for now. I think George's soft tyres are just starting to go off now at this stage of the day, whilst our mediums hang on in there with a little bit more grip. We have, however, both obviously romped away from the likes of Bottas and Leclerc Albon just behind us here. So, I mean, it's still looking good on the team front, but we want more wins under our belt. It is very much just become a very tricky situation between George and myself, sort of behind the scenes at the moment, as we get all kinds of loose out of there. Obviously, we both want to win at the end of the day. Every driver on the grid wants to win. That's why we're all here in the end, but it's just a bit difficult when sometimes some dodgy tactics have come into it, and other times it just feels like one of us can completely gel with the car one weekend and then the other one completely gels with the car the next. As soon as I say that, it looks like George is going to be coming into the pits at the end of lap 6, so we are now going to inherit the lead of the Grand Prix as we head on to lap 7. This is the other problem with the reliability. We're so used now to this car being able to basically just run rich revs and ERS deploy all race long without any issues, that you kind of just forget actually that when the car's running a bit worn out, as you can see there, obviously you can't do that as much, and it's kind of how we win races at the end of the day and how we're able to match George so well. Obviously he's got some fresh parts on the car. He took that hit in Monaco last time round and wasn't really able to recover very well, so we're probably going to have to take that hit rather soon as well. We're just trying to time it so we lose out as few points as possible. I've also just noticed as well then, George has come back out on another set of soft compounded tyres, so he's probably going to be trying to take those to about lap 13, lap 14 in this Grand Prix. So we've got, yeah, a 14-second margin over him, both still with 1 stop to go in this race, but I think it's going to be one of those days where we're watching that gap rather decrease very quickly, rather than trying to open it up. And just like that, George and I are back up into 1st and 2nd again. Gasly, though, up into P4. Jordan King into P3. That would be, well, I mean, you'd never expect Pierre Gasly to be on the podium, would you, surely? Brazil last year must be the only time he's going to be able to get a podium. There we go. New fastest lap of the Grand Prix, a 39.3. However, already George has taken near enough 2 seconds out of us this lap, so let's see what he can post then as he heads down the start-finish straight. A 138, sorry, 6.56 there, so he still took, yeah, 7/10 out of us on that lap. It's not going to be fun. Coming on to lap 12 then, we've really just been trying to settle down into a rhythm and focus on keeping the tyres and everything working as it should be, as well as just watching the wear on the ICE and the MG UK. Shouldn't be too risky in this race, but certainly I don't feel comfortable revving the car out right to its red line down at the front straightaway, still with obviously all these engine woes. But yeah, we are going to dive it in at the end of this one. The gap to Russell hasn't come down dramatically over the last few laps, but it has definitely just been coming down by a few tenths lap after lap, as Perez, now up into the podium places, he's always gone well around this Baku City circuit. If you remember, obviously last season, this was the race that Racing Point got a 1-2, absolutely dominated the opening half of the race, and then both broke down within about 3 laps of each other. It was a rather strange. It was both there and then Canada a week after, where Perez got his one and only F1 race victory to date. It was all very, very strange, and then suddenly they just sort of went back to being midfield runners again. Anyway, less of story time. We need to make sure that we can get the car slowed down into the pit lane at the end of this lap. We should still, yeah, comfortably be out in P2 here, but still, make sure we don't do anything stupid. That was brave on the way into the pits. Just about got it slowed down as well. That was, yeah, we didn't really need to take the risk that we did there. As we've got yellow flags out, one of the Alfa Romeos is going slowly towards the rear of the field. That's Giovinazzi out. And we got a safety car. Look at that. Absolutely finessed it in this race. So we're going to definitely, well, I mean, we're going to be out in P2 anyway. It doesn't really make much difference for us, I'll be honest. But a safety car then, as we reach the halfway stage of this race. How is this going to change things? So coming to the end of lap 13, now at the halfway stage of this race, I'm intrigued to see, is our teammate George Russell going to dive it back into the pit? Surely he is. It's basically a free pit stop, and we're back on the same strategy to the end of the Grand Prix. Yes, he is. So we're going to be back up into the lead of this race. But George now, with a much, much more reliable car, is going to be all over the back of us. And it looks like Bottas, Leclerc and Albon, further back, they'd already pit onto hard, so I don't know if they're going to try to go to the end as well. Actually, no, look at that, George on mediums. So is he going to be able to take those to the end of the Grand Prix? Are we in trouble here? So, 10 to go then here from Azerbaijan, and we are going to be coming back to green flag racing at the end of this lap. Hopefully, we can get a nice, clean getaway here, but I just don't think there's going to be much we can do to defend from our teammate George Russell. Obviously, we had such a pace advantage in qualifying over the rest of the field. Hopefully, there's still something we can do about that. But getting ready then to go green once again from Azerbaijan. Hopefully, yeah, we can just get a nice, clean start, if possible, sticking the DRS of our teammate. But I'm going to go about now then. Haven't really been able to get the jump. George responding rather well, actually, on the restart there. We are going to get a bit of a run down in towards turn 1. But yeah, 10 laps to go then. It is going to be all about survival, I fear, at this stage of the day. But sometimes the car does spring us a bit of a surprise. But already, you can see down towards turn 2. Oh, we dinked the wall there. That wasn't what we needed. Not able to get the run out of the second corner there. So George straight past us. A nice open door for our teammate. And Bottas is looking feisty as well, just behind. So that's not what we needed. Actually struggling a bit to get the tyres back up to temperature there. Bottas, you can just see in the rearview mirror, gets a bit of a wobble as well, but I wanted to make it a bit more difficult for George if possible to get around us. But you can already see he's just streaking away as we head down through sector 2. Probably our best hope now then is that his tyres hit the cliff towards the end of this Grand Prix, but we have still, obviously much more importantly, got to try and get this car to the checkered flag. The win might be off the table, as much as I want to believe that there's still a shot at it. But we need to bring home as many points as possible still. You know, we're in this for the long run this season. This isn't just like a one-off victory that we quite like to have in the trophy cabinet. We need as many points as we dare. I want to believe there is still a shot at the race victory here around this Azerbaijan city circuit. You can see George Russell still only about a second and a half ahead of us. Once again, we have both just flown away from Valtteri Bottas in his Mercedes behind. The gap 4 seconds after just 2 laps is rather ridiculous. New fastest lap of the Grand Prix as well. We're just going to leave it in rich reds to the end of the race. I don't think that is going to affect the 2 parts of the car that are badly damaged at the moment. Or damaged is the wrong word. Worn out, I think, is the word that we should be going with. But yes, 8 laps to go then here from Baku. Can we get back inside the DRS of our teammate? On to lap 20, the gap is just now hovering around the 1 second margin. We are pushing like absolute crazy to try and stick with our teammate here. It's also looking rather overcast around this Baku circuit, but there's been no mention of rain all weekend from the team, so hopefully there's no surprises like that at the end of this race. Here we go then, 5 laps to go from this Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and we are now just inside the 1 second window to our teammate George Russell. It feels like we're both just doing qualifying laps at the end of the Grand Prix. We've romped away from the rest of the field once again, but still, we both want this win. As you can see, top end climbing up over 220 miles an hour as we head down towards turn 1. New PB again for the Grand Prix by another 10th and a half as we almost hit the wall through turn 1. But yeah, George still obviously got a very, very quick package down the straight line. So we'll see if we can get a move. 3 to go then here from Azerbaijan, and the gap is just hovering around that 1 second mark at the moment between myself and George. The last time round we didn't get the DRS. This time round though we are just about back inside it as we head down towards turn 1. But we're going to need to be a lot closer if we want to make a move work in this Grand Prix. Through the first corner, really trying to use as much of the curve as we can. We are pushing like crazy just to stick with him at the moment. Never mind make a move. We need a mistake to come out of our teammate here, but it doesn't seem to be happening at the moment. This time round we're just a little bit closer as we head out of the final couple of corners here, but I'm just trying to work out what the gap needs to be able to go for a move, as we're just using all of our ERS down the front straightaway here. The gap now just about half a second as we activate the DRS, so we are still gaining on our teammate George Russell. 222 miles an hour as we head down in towards the first corner. Another purple lap. So we are finding the time, but there's just 2 laps to go here from Azerbaijan. Can we get the move to work? Can we find an opportunity? Here we go then, even closer as we head towards the final lap of the Grand Prix. The team is saying we should use the overtake button if we think we can get past. I certainly do believe that there might be an opportunity to do something here. Out onto the back straight once again. George Russell just so good on the power there. He's able to really roll on the power nice and early as he heads out towards the start-finish line for the final time, or the penultimate time I should say, in this Grand Prix. 1 more to go then here from Azerbaijan. Are we going to be able to make anything work as we head in towards turn 1? George going to go defensive on us. We can't afford to risk a dive bomb in towards the first corner. We've just got to play the patience game and see if we can make a move heading out, maybe out of here actually. Might be able to get a good run on our teammate George. You can see the gap opens up slightly and then it starts to come back down. Once again, George though aware of that. He goes defensive. Just forces us towards the outside wall. Clips the curb himself though. Doesn't open up the best of runs as we head down through the next couple of corners here. No real opportunities to go for anything now, so we're just going to have to sit behind him, sit all over his gearbox as we head through these final lap of the Grand Prix. They're trying not to get any wheel spin, trying not to make any mistakes that give him an opportunity to break away there as we just snag the front inside wheel down in towards turn 8 for the final time in this race. Just about keep it tidy through there this time around. Take a lot of curb through the next corner. No, we've just got wheel spin. And I swear we've done that before in this series. I can't remember if it was in this or the Mclaren Road to Glory, but we got wheel spin through there in the past. And once again, it appears as we head down in towards the final couple of corners, we aren't going to be close enough. We bottled the potential of a race victory here once again, and I'm absolutely heartbroken with that as we head out the final couple of corners. George, though, was absolutely screamed away anyway, so I think he was planning on just putting absolutely everything out of the car up towards the start-finish line there. But it is going to be another 1-2 for the team. Unfortunately, though, George ends our 3-race win streak. But it is P2, 19 points on the board. We'll have to take it.
Top job, my friend, top job. I was a bit worried about this one at the start of the weekend, but you've pulled through. Thank you.
A nearly flawless performance here then, and a commanding victory. So Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
Well, the safety car completely changed the race, didn't it? It's hard to say exactly what would have happened without it, but there's no question that they came out of that situation in a good position.
Well, I'm thoroughly exhausted after the excitement of that race, but I'm sure it's nothing compared to our drivers here. They've worked hard to make it up there, and it's great to see them make their way out onto the podium. So then, it's time to see how this result affects the Drivers' Championship. Mr. Monaco takes over the lead of the Drivers' Championship. After an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
Often my go-to would be a driver who's managed to pull off an especially impressive feat during the race. However, in this instance, I was more impressed by Max Verstappen's solid, clean driving throughout the event.
Let's move on to the constructors. The current leaders continue to extend their lead at the top. There was also a strong showing from the Mclaren team today, as they make their way up the standings. Well, Ant, an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
So there we are then, the end of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and it is 19 points on the board for ourselves, just a second off our teammate George Russell at the end of the day there. But both of us down in the 138. No one else got a sub 140. That's just how insane we were over the course of that race there. But yeah, George Russell, though, the 25 points from the two-stop there. Actually, the only, him and Carlos Sainz were the only two drivers to make the two-stop work and still score points in that Grand Prix there. But yeah, very good job done by George. Held it under pressure. Got a little bit lucky. I feel like the safety car helped him a bit based on the pace we were able to show in the second half of the Grand Prix. But that is Formula 1 at the end of the day. It certainly helped us out a fair few times in the past as well there. Charles Leclerc third ahead of Bottas, Albon and Verstappen. Perez and Lance Stroll 7th and 8th ahead of the McLarens, rounding out the top 10 there, with Raikkonen just missing out. Hamilton down in 12th, a torrid day out for him. And then Ricciardo down in 16th place as well. Not a good showing for either of those drivers, with just Gasly and Gio not able to get to the checkered flag there. That means championship-wise, the gap back down to 14 points there. It is actually tied 100 points behind our teammate George Russell, between Charles Leclerc and Valtteri Bottas now, as best of the rest, I suppose you could call it, at this stage of the season there. Ricciardo just another 4 points back, 7 ahead of Hamilton, who's just 1 now clear of Verstappen there, who jumps Ocon. Albon gets past Perez, and you can see further down the order, Stroll jumps Carlos Sainz as well there. Constructors-wise, though, Racing Point and McLaren both move past Renault there, and yeah, Racing Point actually a really good day out, able to get a nice little buffer window as well. And yeah, we're 225 points clear of Mercedes, who are just 1 ahead of Ferrari there and 11 ahead of Red Bull. So a really good battle for P2 and a really good battle for P5 in the Constructors' Championship as well. But thank you all so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, do make sure you get yourselves subscribed. And yeah, we will be back very, very soon for round 9 of the season, where we head to Montreal. It's time for the Canadian Grand Prix. You guys do not want to miss it. A big thank you to our channel members for making these videos possible. You can be featured in these end clips, as well as granted access to some other exclusive perks for just £1 a month by clicking the join button below.